Hey, what's up you guys? Today I wanted to do a video discussing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince by J.K. Rowling. So I am sure most of you know what happens in Harry Potter, so I'm not gonna go over exactly what Harry Potter is. So I'm just gonna do a little review / discussion of this book. So overall, I really loved this book. It's probably one of my favorite books in the series. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely probably number 3. In this book, you really get to experience more of just Hogwarts, and this year you really know a lot about the world and you know what's going on, and it's so interesting to be a part of that and to see different parts of the Wizarding world, not just Hogwarts but also, you know, the Ministry interacting with the Prime Minister. And you also get to see a little bit about the inner working of the Death Eaters. You get to see some of their relationships and how they interconnect with one another. This is definitely the book where Draco Malfoy really gets some development too. He kind of changes and you notice a lot of things that are different about him, and it's cool to kind of see that. It's cool to see him questioning his beliefs for a little bit. And so overall, this is just a really strong book. I will say that plot-wise, it is one of the slower books in the series, but it still moves at a pretty good speed in my opinion. There are times where not a lot is happening, but you're still kind of okay with that because it's Hogwarts, and Hogwarts is just a fun place to hang out. Even if there's not a lot happening plot-wise, there's a lot happening with the relationships between the characters, which is something that I really love. I love all of the relationships between the characters. I think that's one of the strongest things that Harry Potter has going for it. It is definitely a series with a lot of plot holes, and so I feel like the relationships between characters makes up for that because it's such strong friendship bonds. It's not really about romance, it's about friendships and family, and those are such good themes and they're so refreshing to see. Even though these are people who are meeting in school, they're going to be friends for the rest of their lives. So it's a really great series. This book overall is really great because it really delves into some of those relationships a little bit more. And it's cool to see these kids start dating. Seeing Harry, Ron, and Hermione get into dating a little bit more because they are at that age and it is an interesting time to be dating. So I just love this book. Highly recommend it if you haven't read the book. The book is so much better than the movie, but the movies are still super awesome. So you should watch those too. So let's just get into the spoilers of this book. Let's get into the details as to what actually happens in this book. So let's just kick it off with the first couple of chapters where we're not with Harry. We get to see a little bit more of the Wizarding world. The air conditioner just clicked on, so you'll probably hear that because I don't have a great mic here. In the first couple chapters, you get to see a little bit more of the Wizarding world. You get to see the Ministry of Magic interacting with the Muggle Ministry, which is pretty cool to see. And you also get to see Narcissa interacting with Snape and Bellatrix and that whole dynamic. So you kind of get foreshadowing as to what is to come, but you never really expect it to actually happen. So when it does, you are very surprised. And so after we get those first couple chapters, we go back to being with Harry, our main guy, and with Harry, he's waiting for Dumbledore shows up. Dumbledore shows up, and then Dumbledore is the most passive-aggressive person in the world, and it is amazing. How Dumbledore treats the Dursleys is fantastic, especially given all of the crap that the Dursleys have put Harry through, and I just love it. I think it's such a funny scene. I think it's so amusing for Dumbledore to come in and be like, oh hey, I love the flowers, but then for him to just attack them for not taking care of Harry, for neglecting him, and for being terrible parents, not only to Harry but also to Dudley for spoiling him rotten. And then after Dumbledore and Harry have kind of gotten together, Harry goes to the Burrow, and I loved the reunion with Hermione and Ron. I laughed my ass off because Ron or Hermione, I don't remember who it is, just straight up hits Harry and is like, oh my god, we didn't know you were here. And it's so funny because it's like, wow, that's a ridiculous response. And if it were me and someone hit me while I was asleep, I would punch him in the face, I'm not someone who likes to be woken up, and I just thought that was so amusing, and I loved all of their discussion from that point forward. I just love all of the moments where we get those three as friends, and we get to really see their friendship develop and change and transform in this book, and I love it. And then eventually we are able to go to Diagon Alley, and in Diagon Alley we get to see Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. We get to see Fred and George's shop, and I love it. Fred and George's shop is so awesome. They are really taking this terrible situation that they are in, and they are just trying to help raise morale, because it is so hard in that time for everyone when they're all scared they're gonna die. They're all scared that Voldemort's gonna take over, and so they're just waiting for it to happen, and they're all scared, and so Fred and George just bring some levity to the situation, and I think that that's just really fun of them to do, and I love it. And that's part of the reason why they are my favorite characters in the entire series. They make situations fun when they aren't necessarily fun, because times get tough sometimes. So after we go to Diagon Alley, we are able to return to Hogwarts, and I love everything that happens at Hogwarts in this book. It's a fun time. We know bad stuff is coming, but we are able to enjoy this moment. We are able to enjoy this calm period before we know what will be the storm later. It's nice to have those moments before things really get crazy, and in life it's kind of like that too. It's nice to have some good times before the bad, so you can hold on to those good times, and you can know that even though things are rough right now, it'll get better. And so there's one line that I thought was really funny that was said once they were back at Hogwarts. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione were sitting in the Great Hall, and Nearly Headless Nick came over, and Ron mentioned something about the fact that Nearly Headless Nick was already dead, so why does him saying "I swear on my life" mean anything? And I just thought it was so funny that Nearly Headless Nick responded with, "You show all the sensitivity of a blunt axe." And then throughout this book we also get to see some of Voldemort's backstory. Harry is, doing all of those pensieve memory watching, experiencing things with Dumbledore, and he's learning about Voldemort, and it's cool to see depth added to our villain. And that's one of the things that I really loved about Harry Potter, is that Voldemort made sense as a character. He had depth. He wasn't just a bad guy to be bad. He wanted things, and he had drive and ambition, and it was those Slytherin traits that led him to where he was, but it was also the abuse and neglect that he felt as a child. It's cool to see two different stories of abuse and neglect, because Harry was also neglected, but he turns out to be a good human, whereas Voldemort is on the other end of the spectrum. So it's cool to see these two juxtapositions of two people in rough situations, and so it shows you that no matter what your situation is, you can still be a good person. And then Hermione and Ron are so cute in this book, because they are both super into each other, but they both get super offended with one another all the time, and so it's just super, I love their bickering. I honestly love them as a couple, because I think they just go together. Ron is really street smart, and Hermione is really book smart, and I think that those two things, they kind of become the most smart person ever by being together. And throughout this book, it's just super fun being at Hogwarts. It's super fun to just be having conversations, and then in the background you've got like killer plants. Like, that's one of the scenes that I really enjoyed. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were talking about something, and they were in herbology, and in the background you've got them like punching and fighting this plant, and it's so amusing to be like, Hermione said this as she was getting slapped in the face by this plant, and I love it. And then Harry realizes that he likes Ginny in this book, which is super fun, but it leads to one of the weirdest things in Harry Potter, which is the monster in Harry, and it makes everyone super uncomfortable. So I just wanted to bring that up to make you uncomfortable as the viewer. Just think about the monster in Harry that is his sex drive. Just think about it for a second and get uncomfortable. And then back to the Ron and Hermione thing. It just leads to some great shenanigans, like at Slughorn's Christmas party, where Hermione invited the person that she thought would most annoy Ron, and she is having the worst time ever, and so she's just like running, trying to get away from him, but at the same time, like, she still came here with that guy. And then another one of my favorite scenes is the scene with the love potion and Ron. I die laughing every time that I read it because it's so hilarious to see Ron be like, I'm in love with her, but like he's not. And then also in this book, you also get to see some different Quidditch commentators, and I love Luna's commentary, just like Ron did. It is so amusing to hear her commentate. It's so amusing to hear the different commentators, but especially Luna, because it's just so silly and ridiculous. It's fun to see the roles changing at Hogwarts as the years change. And then we have the scene with Harry on the Felix Felicis, aka drugs, because, oh god, it's funny. He really sounds like he's smoked a joint or something in that scene, and it's so funny. And the movie did amazing on that scene, not gonna lie. He knows what he needs to do, but he sounds like a lunatic, and it's so amusing, and it's so cool to see his stuff actually work out. And then after Harry is on his Felix Felicis, he's able to go hunt a Horcrux with Dumbledore. And it's super cool to see Dumbledore in action. You get to see just how badass Dumbledore is, which is what makes his death so much more tragic, because at the end of the book he does die, and it's just a rough scene to read because you're stuck not doing anything. Harry is stuck not doing anything, and it's just tough because Dumbledore is someone that not only Harry but you as the reader relied upon and expected to always be there. And so it's just weird to have that void, and it's kind of what lets you know that returning to Hogwarts is not going to be an option in the future. It's just the rock bottom of the series. It's lucky that he was the only one that was really dead in that whole encounter, and I think that's something that Harry Potter does very well, is J.K. Rowling lets characters die. Some books that doesn't really happen. Your main characters don't really die in some other books, and it's very frustrating because war does have a cost. You know, people do die in war, and so it's just nice and refreshing to see that cost, even though you still don't want characters to die. And then you also get to see that cost a little bit with Bill and how he gets attacked by Greyback, and he has like permanent face disfigurement from that. Fleur's reaction to his disfigurement is so amazing, and I loved Fleur in that moment because no one in the family really expected that, and it's so great that even though Bill has some interesting times ahead with his face issues, he still got someone to stick with. This book really leaves you wanting to know what happens in the end, because you know that you are at the lowest point. You know what has to be done to get to the end, and so it's just a matter of doing it. So thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. I really love discussing books, so I would love for you to comment down below your thoughts on Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and your thoughts on Harry Potter in general. I post videos every week, so I will see you then. Goodbye!